Well, folks, this is Private Robert Pote, a soldier in the Australian Army. 8 years ago, Robert was killed in cold blood by a rogue Afghan sergeant who thought he could trust. He thought he could trust. And now the man who murdered him and two other Australian soldiers, believe it or not, is set to walk free.
It's part of a prisoner swap deal reached between the United States and the Taliban. Hugh Pote, the father of Private Robert Pote, joins us now from his home in Canberra. Hugh, thank you so much for joining us. This must be incredibly tough to talk about. This is both shameful and heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Ali. The fact that this person is going to be released is not something that we ever thought would happen, and it's not something we're looking forward to.
Hugh, I know this is, I spoke to you last night. I know how difficult this is for you to talk publicly about this, but we both agreed last night it was so important. How does it feel to know that this killer, who was sentenced to death, will soon be free and could possibly be free now?
Well, that's right. He could be free. We don't know. We're not being told very much at all, other than what we read in the media. But his sentence was execution. It was not a term of imprisonment. If that sentence had been carried out, we wouldn't be in this situation now, and we wouldn't be having this interview. So it's a bit annoying and frustrating and extremely disappointing, not only for my family, but for the other two families and for the mates of the guys who were killed.
Yeah, what message does it send to our soldiers who've put their life on the line to defend our country, an ideal, that something like this could happen?
Well, at the time, insider attacks were happening. They were described by General Allison, who was the Supreme Commander of ISAF at the time, as the signature tactic of the Taliban. But the men on the ground were unaware of this, the extent to which these insider attacks were occurring. All they knew is that it was a risk, but they had no idea of the extent of the risk.
There are all sorts of things that went wrong in terms of those procedures and protocols that night. Are you able to share, if you can, with our audience, just a little bit of what happened?
Do you want to know what the incident?
Yes.
Or I'm not quite sure of the question, Karl.
The incident, yeah.
The incident, yeah. Well, the guys had been out on a partnered patrol with the Afghan National Army contingent at that patrol base earlier that day. When they came back, it was 43 degrees Celsius, and they were given permission to change into their PT gear, which was a great relief. And that afternoon, they were relaxing, or that evening, should I say, having a game. Some were playing a card game, which was poker, and the others were playing a board game called Risk, of all things. And Hekmatullah, the person who committed this offence, was due to go on guard duty. He took over the M16 assault rifle from the person he was replacing. But instead of going up into the guard tower, he took a position behind a Bushmaster vehicle, waited until the Guardian Angel was out of the way, and opened up on the guys who were at those two makeshift tables. He fired 26 rounds of the 30-round magazine on the rifle. He then dropped it because the Guardian Angel and a sergeant thought they were returning fire to where the fire had come from, which was the guard towers. So the assailant then dropped his rifle and ran down to where the Afghan National Army contingent were housed.
I mean,
Yeah, you go.
I mean, you hear that story, and to think that the man responsible for this is about to walk free, it's not good enough. What is our government doing to support you? We know that your family's had an incredible history serving this country. What is justice for your son and the other soldiers killed? And what is our government doing to help you right now?
Well, I'll take the justice issue first. The justice would be that his sentence be carried out, and that was the death sentence. What is the government doing? Whatever they're doing, it's far too little and it's far too late. It should have been done at the time. We couldn't understand why the sentence was not being carried out. Every time we asked questions, we were stonewalled and stymied. So we had to make contacts, non-government contacts, to find out where the situation was headed and what was happening. I know from a non-government contact, because we've had no government contact, that Hekmatullah is no longer in Pol E Charkai prison, which is where he's served the last 7 years. He may well have been released already. We don't know. We're not being told anything.
Hugh, I can't imagine, I mean, given what we just saw then, we saw some of the vision of the funeral processions, of you having to bury your son, and all you wanted was justice and communication at the very least from our government, and you haven't got it, and it's an absolute disgrace. I'm so sorry that our government has let you down in this regard. It's appalling, but we appreciate your time today, and best of luck moving forward. Let's hope we can keep the pressure on them so that we can do something about it if it's not too late. Thank you for your son's service to this country.
I hope it's not too late too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karl.
Okay.